I'm excited to be back up here again to give the annual update on the Fabulous Fox National Water Trail. With the mouse, okay. And I'm excited to learn that there's a bunch of new people here today. This is your first summit. And so I'm just going to give a little bit of background information so you know what the Fabulous Fox National Water Trail is, and then I'll give you an update on where we're at. Okay. Click on,
It's
on the side. Or...
yeah, you get it down in this box. I think.
Oh.
There you go.
Okay, thanks, Tom. Okay, so almost 2 years ago, back on June 2nd of 2023, former Secretary of the Interior, Deborah Haaland, designated 9 new national recreation trails in the United States. One of those was a water trail, and it was the Fabulous Fox Water Trail. So we were very excited to receive that designation. It was a lot of work that went on from a lot of you that are in the room today, a lot of work that you did before we put the application together, and submitted it the previous November. I'm doing something on here. There we go. Okay, so what is the National Park Service National Water Trail System? It's a distinctive national network of exemplary water trails that are cooperatively supported and sustained. Recreational routes on waterways consisting of a network of public access points supported by broad-based community partnerships that provide both conservation and recreational opportunities. On the left, you will see the map of all of the National Park Service National Recreation Trails, most of which are land-based trails. I believe there's only about 40 that are water trails. And one of those blue dots is our Fabulous Fox Water Trail. And on the right, you see a screenshot of our webpage that is on the National Park Service website that gives basic information about the water trail and also a link to our website. So one of the requirements for becoming a designated water trail was to show that stakeholders along the river had worked on implementing these best management practices. And over decades, there are organizations out in the audience here and others that aren't here today that have done things that helped us to meet these best management practices. And they are recreation opportunities, education, restoration, community support, public information, trail maintenance, planning, and also to develop a management plan for the future. Because once you're designated, you don't just stop. You have to keep going and you have to keep implementing these best management practices. And so as we move forward, I work for Kane County, Illinois, and I'm going to talk to you about what we've been doing in Kane County. So we are continuing to implement the best management practices that are in our management plan. A couple of years ago, we received $1.22 million from our Kane County Board in American Rescue Plan funding for planning, marketing, infrastructure for new and improved access and signage. I have to say that the Kane County Board has been very supportive of this project, one of our county board chairman's favorite projects. And so it's been a lot of fun to have all this support. Also, we received a grant from the Illinois Department of Commerce and Economic Opportunity Tourism and Attractions Grant, $270,000 for improvement to and construction of new access sites. We received that grant in 2022, and last December, we applied for another one of these grants. We haven't heard yet. Also, the Illinois Department of Commerce and Economic Opportunity Travel and Tourism Grant, we received $100,000 for marketing. So with that money and some money from Kane County, we contracted with Gilmore Marketing Concepts out of Elgin, and we've been working with Kim Gilmore for the past 2 years on our marketing and communication plan. And the things that she's worked with us on are listed on this slide here. We created some branding. We have a whole branding guide for those of you that are interested in using our logos, etc. Digital marketing, display marketing, public relations, content marketing, online, including Kane County website and Facebook page. We have a print brochure that is also specific to Kane County, in addition to the one that our team developed early on for the whole water trail. Radio, including WGN sweepstakes. I did 2 interviews with WGN last year. Streaming television, promotional merchandise, an online store. Last year we did billboards, and this year we're going to be doing bus tails. So this is advertising on the back of the PACE buses. We picked out 2 bus routes that are in Kane County, also go up into McHenry County, and I believe 4 buses on each of those routes will have our bus tail advertising on them this year. We are also working on increasing our signage. One of the things we had to do before we submitted the application was to design and install signage at each of the access sites along the river. And the signage that we installed included identification as to what access site you're at, and also a map of the area, and also a copy of that signage that faces the river, so that if you're on the river, you know where you're at. So in the future, we are looking at installing some of what are called SUFA signs. And this is an innovative type of signage that has been used in different parts of the country. And you can see I have put a couple photographs of the SUFA sign up here. It's about 7 feet tall. It has a solar panel on top, so it doesn't need to have access to electricity. It's wrapped with information about the Fabulous Fox Water Trail. There's opportunity to put up to 4 widgets on there, real-time widgets. We will probably use 2 of those, one for the National Weather Service and also for the USGS gauges that are on the river. So you can see the flow and the height of the river in real time. And then the other 2 will be used by the community that they are going to be installed at. We've had a number of communities in Kane County show interest in wanting to have a SUFA sign. So it depends on the funding that we receive from the Illinois Department of Commerce and Economic Opportunity, whether we can go ahead and install some of these SUFA signs. We're also looking at putting some wayfinding signs in. As I mentioned before, we did install access site signage, but we would like to put some wayfinding signs in so people could find the access sites easier. And we'd also like to put some signage on the bridges that cross the Fox River. So the big project that I'm very excited about also is the Kane County Access Infrastructure Project. This was funded by the Kane County American Rescue Plan and the Illinois Department of Commerce and Economic Opportunity, with the purpose to improve access site infrastructure for all abilities along the Fox River. You may remember, if you were here a couple of years ago, there was a presentation by a company called BoardSafe that constructs access sites that are what I call the next step above an ADA accessible launch site. They are accessible, hopefully for all abilities, not only individuals who need to use a wheelchair, but maybe young kids that are learning how to paddle, or some of us that are getting older and our knees are getting cranky. So we're looking at installing 5 of those launches with our funding. We've been working with Hay and Associates, Inc. to do our engineering work this past year or so. And we contracted at the end of December with Earthworks to do the construction. So now we're just waiting for our permits from the Army Corps of Engineers, fingers crossed. and the Illinois Department of Natural Resources, because we can begin construction once we get those permits. The new launches will be in Carpentersville, East Dundee, South Elgin, Batavia, and Montgomery. And we're very excited to work with all of these landowners on being able to add new access to the river. So before I ask if there are any questions, I have a couple other things that I added after I did my presentation. One of our team members, we have a core development team that meets virtually every month. And one of our team members, Holly Hudson, who works for the Chicago Metropolitan Agency for Planning, she worked with us over the past few months to create a funding and technical assistance resources table. And this is, I think, about 4 or 5 pages, and it lists different funding opportunities that are available. There's a section for Illinois and also one for Wisconsin. And I did bring several copies with me today, and they are over on the water trail table if you are interested. Also, the Coast Guard has this pretty cool program. Several times a year, they will get notification that maybe there is a boat floating out on a waterway, whether it's a lake, river, ocean, whatever. And maybe it's an empty boat, maybe it's an empty canoe. And they don't know, did that boat just leave the dock on its own, or did somebody fall off? So by law, they have to go and look, assume that somebody was in the boat, and start looking for somebody that may have fallen out. Now that event, that incident can cost the Coast Guard up to $40,000 in order to search for someone that may have fallen out. What they've come up with is an if found contact sticker that you can put inside your boat. You use indelible marker and put your name and your phone number on there, and it's inside your boat. So let's say it's a windy day and your boat leaves the dock or the shore, but you're not in it, and somebody finds it, they can look in here and call and say, are you safe? Did this person that owns this boat, did they fall off? Whatever. And so then they know whether or not they have to look for somebody. So I had a bunch of these before, and they went pretty fast. And I saw someone from the Coast Guard this past weekend at Canoecopia, and he gave me some more of these. So anybody that owns their own boat, if they would like one of these stickers, come and see me and I can give you one. Also, today, as a very nice surprise, Maggie Solas from the Kane DuPage Soil and Water Conservation District, and also very active in some of our other environmental groups, brought a framed map that was developed by the Boy Scouts for a trip that they took back in 1960. It's a hand-drawn map that they did. I think Maggie said they worked on it starting in 1956 on their trip that they took in 1960. It has got all kinds of little notes and stuff. And I think that she said she got it from a family member. So anyway, Maggie brought that with her today, and it's framed and it's laying on our table. So if you want to take a look at it, it's pretty cool. So if anybody has any questions. Oh, yes.
I have one about signs.
Sure.
Probably more of a recommendation than a question. As we know, there's dams on the Fox River currently right now.
Mhm.
I know most of us in the room probably dislike dams. I'm the opposite of many people here. I think the dams, one thing that does is it makes better access for people, especially for, having docks with nice pool of water. Over there, I don't get the environmental, I realize all that, but one of the things I think that needs to be done on the signage is not only having signs at the launch points, but there needs to be improved signage at all the dam sites. It is very poor right now on the river. I found the one in St. Charles, for example. It is behind the walkway bridge on the railway trail. So it's up there. If you look up there, it's up there, but it's completely hidden. And even on the signs, I saw this, I forget where I saw this at. There was a sign, that it was for the water trail, and there was a big warning on the sign, this far down this way, the dam is, as a warning to that. So, if there was signs planted to the river that said, portage on this side of the dam or wherever the recommended portage route, I think would greatly improve the water trail. Okay, portage on this side, get to this side of the river. And I think that information needs to be on the signage, because, you know, at this point, there's still dams left on the river. So that needs to be, it's a big safety thing, and I think that really needs to be included on the signage. You know, not only at the launch points, but, you know, just before the dams, because I feel the signage at the dams is just horrible. If you don't know about it, it's, you know, especially if you're a new paddler, it's not good. So that's kind of my comment, is that we definitely need signage for all the dams on the river.
Okay, thank you for that comment. When we were developing the Fabulous Fox Water Trail, we applied for technical assistance from the Park Service, and we worked with Angie Torres from the Park Service, who is now retired. But what she told me was that the dam signage is the responsibility of the Illinois Department of Natural Resources to make sure that it is there. And if it's damaged, it needs to be fixed. Also, the buoys that you see across the river, that's my understanding. So I don't know if that's something that we could do as the water trail. I mean, we do have all of the dams on our maps, and you can find our maps. We've divided the river up into 14 segments. You can find our maps on our website. You can bring them up on your phone while you're on the river. You can print them out ahead of time. But we include all the dams and the portages, clearly marked where the dams are, so that you would know ahead of time. That would be my recommendation, because we have no control over, you know, the signage that is supposed to be there.
Yeah. It's really, you know, I think we definitely need to advocate for that.
Mhm.
It's bad in areas. It's just, oh, there's a dam. You know, so-
Right, and sometimes the buoys, if we get a major storm or something, sometimes the buoys can be, you know, set free or whatever, you know, and they're not always in place, but, you know, that's something that you know, we can't take responsibility for as the water trail, but I understand what you're saying.
Another safety thing that I'd like to see, since you guys are putting in fancy electronic signs, I would advocate, this is probably, again, out of control. I would advocate to have water temperature monitoring at the gauge sites as well, because there's a lot of people that go out there that have no idea that the river's cold. You know, they come out on a spring day like today, and the river's still, you know, 40 degrees or something like that. It's actually extremely dangerous to paddle without proper equipment. So, you know, maybe having a water temperature on the reading was awesome to have on those signs. It'll actually have some more information. You're not just air temperature in the water, you know, not air temperature, but you also have water temperature out there. It'd be an awesome thing to do.
Okay, my guess is that the temperature probably varies depending on where you're at and the current, et cetera. The USGS gauges were you gonna?
USGS gauge that's sponsored by the Fox River,
This
study group.
study group?
Up in McHenry has a temperature readout when it's running, which is about 9 months a year. And so the amount of temperature change from McHenry down to the central part of the river is less than a degree. So you can get a real good reliable
Okay.
reading
That would
there.
be great information on those electronic signs.
And does that, so does that show up on their website, the USGS website? Okay, and that's the link we would have on the SUFA sign, is to the USGS website. So if it's on their website, then it would show up on the SUFA sign, yeah. Any other questions?
We got it.
We
Oh,
got,
okay.